Because some of the most important conversations in senior living don't happen in meetings. They happen after the agenda's gone, when nobody's performing anymore. That's the space that this show lives in. My name's Murray, and this is Murry Off the Mic. Here we go. Welcome to Murry Off the Mic. A place for mom is quite possibly one of the most polarizing entities within senior living. Some operators swear by it, some swear at it. But one thing is for sure, the population at large absolutely depends on a place for mom to fill in a huge knowledge gap of how to and what services support aging successfully in our later years. My guest today is Margaret Cabell. She's a translator in the world of aging, and I absolutely love that. I perceive myself as a bit of a translator. An experienced operator leading communities, scaling portfolios, and in service as CEO before crossing into her current role as the Chief Community Relations Officer and Head of Sales for A Place for Mom. Welcome, Margaret. Did I get that right?
Murray, I loved your introduction. Some people swear by it, some people swear at it. That could not have been better said. But yeah, I think if there's one thing, I think it's having a balance between serving community operators and serving caregivers. Our role at A Place for Mom is to serve caregivers and seniors. And so while operators may not find us to be, absolutely necessary or the best fit for them, we are the best fit, and we are absolutely necessary for families and caregivers to help them in this journey. And my job has kind of been to bridge those two camps and show how we're serving both sides of that need.
And when you talk about caregivers, are you talking about professional caregivers or
I'm talking about seniors and their adult daughters, their adult sons. The people that are making the caregiving decisions for our seniors.
Yeah, for sure. I've always been perplexed through my career thinking about how in our education system, we don't really talk about aging in all that detail. And it's like, if there's one thing we all do, it's age. So certainly appreciate the service you all are bringing to the forefront. Just to stack on that a little bit, I'm curious because you have so much experience in this industry and you've been in and out it and now on the vendor side like me. But when you wake up these days, before you get into your day, like, is there one thing, what's the thing in senior living that's just sitting there always at the top of your mind? Is it about that caregiver burden, or what would you say sits at the top of your mind for the industry?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I'd say it's evolved over my career. But now when I wake up, the number one urgency I have is really informing families. That has become a mission of A Place for Mom and a mission of mine since joining, that there's such a lack of education. There's such a lack of information, verifiable information, unbiased information, and guidance. That's what gets me up every morning and saying, gosh, okay, I'm going to do my very best today for my sales team to be able to guide family members. I'm going to do my very best for my community partners to be able to understand and be connected with the right family members. And we're going to work together to make this industry a little bit more transparent.
Yeah, and I love your title, Chief Community Relations Officer. That's really cool. Can you, has anybody ever asked you to hey, boil that down? What does that do?
I mean, it's a really important title, Murray, that I'm pretty sure, we kind of made up, but at its heart, it is finding ways to better align with community operators as our customer. They are our customer. And historically, we have had tensions between our customers and A Place for Mom. And that's why I was so grateful for the leadership of A Place for Mom to invite me over to join them and lead that effort to better connect and educate our community partners with really what is the mission of A Place for Mom and what are we serving for families and caregivers, people looking for that information, and how are we doing our very, very best to make great recommendations and guidance.
Yeah, I do applaud A Place for Mom because you didn't have to do that. I mean, you own the population throughput into our industry in a lot of cases, and you could have just been like, look, I'm in the driver's seat. Is there anything behind why A Place for Mom was like, no, we need to be accountable here, and we need to also turn and treat these community operators like our customers as well?
Yeah, I will say my perspective, it had a lot to do with our CEO, Tatiana Zlatsky. She became CEO right as I joined the company, and she has a true caregiver's heart. She was raised by her grandparents, took very good care of her grandparents, has that at the core of her mission. And being the previous sales and marketing manager, the family experience was her passion. And so as she became CEO, I think she recognized she needs somebody to help her lift on the other side. And being a former operator and being a partner from a place for mom for over 18 years, it was a great fit for me to come in and say, let me balance your passion for caregiver and caregiving and the family experience with what the operator experience is and how we can help kind of balance that. And that's been a very successful formula for us.
That's smart. That's smart. Who better to know that customer than the customer themselves, right?
Right.
Okay, I'll get back to the hard questions about a place for mom later. But what I'm really interested is your personal story. What's your origin story? As I think back, there was one moment I can think of. It was walking into a Sunrise Senior Living community, 1999 ish. After hanging out in nursing homes in the 80s and being like, oh my gosh, this is way better, but oh my gosh, this could be way better. Is there like one point looking back through your career where you're like, this is it? This is my passion. This is my purpose. This is why I'm here.
Yeah, it's a great question, Murray. I don't have that. Oh, my grandmother raised me, or I took care of my
Yeah.
grandmother. My grandfather moved in with us. I don't have that experience, but what I do have is went and got my master's in art therapy, and my first practicum was with aphasia residents that were expressing themselves through art, and I was like, "This is it. This is the most amazing experience I have ever had." And the therapeutic work didn't connect with me as much as just being with those seniors and listening to them and understanding what they were going through. And I decided I'm not going to chase the therapeutic work. I just want to be with seniors. And I started in activities, which was so much fun. And every step of my career, I go, I think I could do more. I could do more. I could do more for this industry. I could do more for my residents. I could do more for my community. And that's kind of how I grew from an activities assistant leading bingo to CEO of senior living and now here at a place for mom.
Yeah, that's crazy, but it is so true. I mean, I think that's like the point where the job like melted away from me. It was just
Yes. Yes.
we're just a bunch of people. I was leaving my home in the morning, going to my second home all day, albeit sometimes for 80 hours a week. Uh, and then coming back to my home at night is just like, this isn't work. This is just like showing up and helping each other be as good as
Right.
we can be every
Exactly.
day. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
And to have the privilege of working alongside nurses and, CNAs and caregivers and to support them the right way, that's a real privilege. I
Yeah,
really enjoyed that part of the work.
for sure. That's one of the most fun parts is like watching the nurse grow, watching the direct care staff grow, watching the resident grow in an
Uh-huh.
environment they thought they were just destined for death in and were just waiting around for the reaper. Um, you have helped, and your organization has helped thousands of families navigate care decisions. Uh,
Mhm.
you have been open, and I read about and watched another interview that you did that even with all your experience as a senior living leader, that you struggled a bit with care planning conversations in your own family. I can very much relate on this topic with my own four grandparents struggling to find their way in later years to kind of maximize their days on this earth. But, let me ask you, what was that like for you? And did it evolve your perspective as an
Yeah.
operator or as an industry leader?
Absolutely, Maria. In fact, I really am blushing because it is embarrassing to me. But then I think this is what every family goes through.
Yeah.
I am not special in this way. And I as a executive director, operator, sales leader, I have always met with families and told them what to do as far as what are the next steps and what's the best fit and what are the differences in care levels. And I felt always very comfortable having those conversations and the value of senior living, all of that. And then, last winter we had all these terrible ice storms over here on the East Coast, and my mom slipped and fractured her wrist. And it was a very tiny fracture. She was fine. But she was like, Margaret, I just never realized how much I need both of my hands. I can't drive. I can't open this. I can't do that. I can't put my jacket on. Right.
Yeah.
And it just, I'm sitting here looking at her, knowing that this is what I have done for 20 years, and I'm just hesitant to talk about it. And
Yeah.
it was funny. texted my twin sister and I was like, I think we need to talk about this. And she was like, nope, I'm good. And so it was funny how difficult it was for me with all that experience doing it for thousands, literally thousands of families in my lifetime, and find it so challenging to have that conversation with my own mom and my sister. It
Yeah,
was wild.
I feel that. Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, still a great story. Did that have some precipice as to your employment over at a place for mom? Like, were you like, I really enjoy this, helping people find the services they need and realizing they need these services?
Yes, that has been really rewarding. I'll tell you, being able to listen to so many calls really did help me find some comfort in talking to my mom and my sister.
Yeah,
I thousands upon thousands of calls talking to people just like my mom and like my sister, trying to explain, what we need to do, and that this isn't a decision that we have to make now that never changes. Let's just start talking, and let's just start
sure.
laying out the options, understanding preferences. But I will say, Murray, the biggest impact on me was um, my father got critically ill with terminal cancer right as I joined a place for mom. And they were so gracious and supportive of me. But that was what was a really triggering event for me, because I went from, um, having to figure out, like, well, how do I get home care? How am I going to get somebody to come to the house? How am I going to get somebody to do this? Like, I, he's in the hospital and they said he has to go home, or he has to go discharged in like 24 hours. Like, how on earth are we going to do that sense of not being prepared in an urgent situation was awful. And that is what so many families come to us every day with, is they have an urgent need and they need help right now and they don't know what to do.
Yeah, spot on. I've been thinking a lot about how senior living sits on this spectrum of needs based product where it's like, oh, something happened, I need your service right now,
Mhm.
and a lifestyle based product. In fact, Steve Moran and I had a little debate on it on my first episode here. But, you know, almost every family member says the same thing after the fact, which is like, I wish I had been prepared, or I wish I had done something sooner. Very few seem to take advantage of senior living as a lifestyle opportunity on that spectrum. So, in
Mhm.
your view, where's the point of failure there? Is that a system failure? Is it just an education failure? Or is it a
I,
failure
you
on
know,
the family's part? It's hard to say that.
That's a pretty huge question, and I
Yeah,
would say I think there's a lot of factors. But number one, I think we have a social taboo
mhm,
about talking about getting older and admitting
for
that you
sure.
need help, or that you want to live a simpler life. That seems to be a big driver that I see. Also, there's a lot of confusion or a lack of awareness about what senior living has to offer to those that are looking for independent living or a lifestyle. There are fantastic
Yeah.
communities out there. I remember I was touring a community and my twin sister was with me. She was like, they walk your dogs. Can I move in? Like, this is great. This is everything that I want. So I think there's a lack of awareness about that, about, you don't have to wait till you're in an urgent need. You don't have to wait until you need help to enjoy this fourth quarter of your life. You can really simplify and slow down, or not, and enjoy. And I think that's one thing the industry is doing better, is
Yeah.
creating the product and the awareness of the product that's a really good fit for independent or active, or just very kind of healthy adults that may need more help but don't want to sacrifice their independence and their lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hooked on I love taglines or three bullet points or whatever. And right now I'm hooked on one more day of control. And
Mhm.
when I look at my own life, that's really all I want, is one more day of control too. What is a place for mom's role in helping the greater population understand that senior living isn't just a needs based product, that we are a great lifestyle option as well?
That is a very good question. And I think that's something that has really evolved in the brand over 25 years. It, it's really interesting to hear how the funnel has shifted, how people that are contacting a place for mom have shifted. And really now it's about educating people about what is available. It isn't just I need something right now. I'm in an urgent situation. I need help. I can't do this by myself anymore. It's what am I supposed to do, and what are the different options that are out there? And I think what A Place for Mom does really well is inform the public about what's available for home care, what's available for independent living, what's a day center like, and that these are not lateral moves that you can move in, do one for a little while, and then try something else, and then come back to it. And I think that's given people a lot of comfort, and as you said, Murray, that sense of one more day of control.
Yeah. Yeah. Margaret, you are different from a lot of people in your seat. I can appreciate this because you lived on the operator side. You carried census, you've worried about staffing, you've owned NOI. What do operators still underestimate about what families that are reaching out to you are actually going through before they decide to come in the community? And what value does A Place for Mom bring as an added or support in that journey?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. And I think this is such a timely question because this answer before COVID would have been very different, in my opinion.
Sure.
And now we've got digital searches, people that are looking digitally online, searching for senior living in a very different way. AI is informing them in a very different way. But senior living, I don't think has adapted to that change in search behavior or change in need from the caregivers as they come to that first inquiry or that first phone call. They're also completely swamped with inquiries. Since people are digitally inquiring more and doing more research online, there's a lot more volume coming into the communities. And I still see this bias to, going out and finding your own leads and doing the work, where I think there's a real genius in finding that blend in each market for each community that works. But A Place for Mom is here to help you really qualify those leads and then to be your sales partner. That's how I always used A Place for Mom when I was an operator. You are my sales partner. You are helping me find these families and help them get to the right place. And if I'm not it, that's okay. But let's move on and let's find them the right place and let's find me the next resident. And I think that's one thing that the industry has to get out of its way. It has to refresh the way that it meets caregivers where they are. And it has to be able to manage the volume in a way that's a little bit more intelligent than what I've typically seen in the industry.
Were there operational steps that you took to build that real type of bi-directional communication relationship with A Place for Mom that you see other operators missing out on?
I do see, I'm a sales leader first. And I think that makes me a good operator. But what I do see is there can be such a focus on an expense and such a focus on the business and the FP&A reports, et cetera, that the focus can be shifted away from the top line. How do I help people find my community? How do I help move the right residents in? How do I provide the right services? To just really tightly running a business that requires a lot of expense management. And I think sometimes we get that backwards. And as a successful sales leader and operator, I always put the top line first. I always put my occupancy, my residents first. And the ROI is there. Nobody wants to agree with me on it, but the ROI of 12x is there from A Place for Mom based on the time that we save, the value of the residents that we bring, the length of stay, it's there. And I wish as an industry we could work more in a balanced way between getting your own leads, growing your own leads, and relying on excellent partners to help connect you to the right families.
On the flip side of that, where are operators kind of right to be frustrated with the referral ecosystem today?
Yeah, it's interesting when families call us, they don't know exactly what they want, what they need, and what their budget is. And we do our very, very best to help unpack and educate that. But at the end of the day, we go off with what the family knows in that initial conversation and that initial consultation. And that is one of the biggest frustrations that communities have with us is, hey, listen, you didn't get the budget right. This isn't the right care product. And so it becomes this kind of um, perception that our leads aren't as valuable as others. But the reality is, you're getting in with this family. You've got an educated sales team with a place for mom standing behind you, and we are educating them along with you about what is the right step, about what is the value of senior living, about what a budget should look like, could look like, what resources there are. And I think that sometimes is missed. And I think that that's an important part of it. But they're right. When we get that many phone calls every single day, and we're talking to that many family members that are at all points of the journey, and this is new to them, we're not always going to get that part right off the bat.
Now, and to the point of working together, operator and a place for mom, can they work with you to identify those qualification points that they really want to lean into so they do get what they perceive as better leads?
As the chief community relations officer, that's what I do all day,
Okay.
every day, is how do I maximize and how do I improve the matching and the recommendations that we give for families and for communities. And we've done a lot of customer-based researches with our community partners. I can't tell you how many quant and qual interviews that we've done, really trying to understand, what does quality look like to you? How could we make this relationship more beneficial? What else do you need from us to really be able to lean into this partnership so we can both help seniors? And that has been a different conversation than what I think A Place for Mom has had with operators in the past. And that has helped us develop better and smarter technology, use AI in a way that helps us pull out those better and different and those differentiators and help make better recommendations. And I think if we continue to work down that path together, we will continue to show great improvement.
Yeah, yeah. And since you talked so eloquently about technology, I'm really hung up on this idea that we need to give our customers, and from your perspective, both residents and prospective residents and families and caregivers and
Mhm.
the operators, more agency in the digital process of the workflows. Like, we funnel all of these things through people, the employees of the staff of the company, but we really should be trying to put it more in the hands of the end user so that they can make the decisions themselves, especially in senior living. But we're racing towards more data, more automation, more AI. Everybody says it's the future of senior living. What are the signals you're focused on in the market, and for A Place for Mom specifically? What opportunities does that AI bring? What are you excited about?
No, it's a very fair question. I do think AI is there to help and support us. I do not think it's there to replace the human element. This is a truly person to person care relationship, and it takes a level of empathy and understanding that can only come from an experienced person. However, I do see AI making us much more efficient and effective. We use AI currently at A Place for Mom to do a lot of call recording and listening. When you get as many calls as A Place for Mom does, we have a tremendous amount of data that can help us listen for needs, objections, what's triggering a timeline, what is a timeline, what are people confused about budget. All of those things makes us better every single day at creating resources for our sales team, and that's our families, and also coaching opportunities to help make sure that all of our senior living advisors are presenting that information in a clean, professional, and transparent way.
10 years from now, when families look back at how we helped them navigate aging, what do you think we'll be embarrassed about getting wrong?
Murray, I think back when I was the first executive director, we had paper Mars, and it took us forever to get to EMARS. I think that's what's going to hold us back. I think that's what we're going to be embarrassed about. 10 years from now, we're going to wonder why we didn't employ more technology in the industry to help us serve seniors better.
Yep, I definitely agree with that, and not just because I work at Point Click Care. What's the one thing you'd fight to make sure that we finally get right?
The one thing I really like to see our industry walk towards is more transparency. All of the operators are trying to do the same thing. We all want to help the same people. There are hundreds of thousands, millions of people that need us. And I wish that I could be a influencer that was able to help brands come together, better differentiate themselves, better understand how they overlap in a market, and truly be focused on what is the best fit for me as an operator and for this resident? And I think a place for mom has a responsibility to be a voice in that conversation.
I think I watch communities struggle to own who they are or who they want to be. And they're like, I'm this and maybe a little bit of this. And it's like, be bold. But number one, be transparent.
Yes.
Thank you, Margaret, for having such a candid conversation with me today. The only real mistake is the one from which we learn nothing. Our guest today has been Margaret Cabell, Chief Community Relations Officer and Head of Sales. My name is Murray, and this has been Murry Off the Mic.